Hello, everyone, and welcome to CoSIDA Conversations, Episode 5, with the CoSIDA President and Executive Director. I'm Sam Atkinson, the 2020-2021 CoSIDA President and Associate Athletic Director for Communications at Gallaudet University. I'm here in Ellicott City, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., and I'm joined by CoSIDA's Executive Director, Doug Vance, in Tucson, Arizona. Doug, how's it going, and welcome back to CoSIDA Conversations.
Thanks, Sam. Things are going pretty good right now. It's a time of year where we hand out special awards and honor some really good people. So it's a nice time of the year for all of us.
Absolutely. We'll dive into that in a second. Just a reminder to our audience, what is CoSIDA Conversations? Well, this is a monthly conversation between the CoSIDA President and Executive Director to discuss all things CoSIDA, the profession, and our members. We want to make sure everyone knows what the organization is doing and discussing what items, projects, initiatives we are working on. So on this episode, Doug and I will pay tribute to our CoSIDA leaders, past and present, and recognize our 2021 CoSIDA Award winners. Plus, we'll be joined by Shelly from Auburn University and Danny Barnts from Point Loma Nazarene University to discuss all things about the CoSIDA Advocacy Committee. And we'll wrap things up, opening up our mailbag and answering questions from you, our members and listeners. So let's get started with our 5th episode. Doug, we weren't able to meet up during the month of February, but I wanted to start our conversation celebrating and honoring the Black men and women who are and have been members of CoSIDA, and especially those past and present leaders within our organization for Black History Month. Starting back with Ernie Goodman from Howard University in the 1960s, up to Bob Smith from Rutgers University in the 1980s, who was our CoSIDA's first Black president, to more recently CoSIDA leaders in April Emery, Rob Knox, Siobhan Mansfield, Denise Thompson, and Jessica Poole, who in 2 years will be our first Black woman president of CoSIDA. There are many others, and one in particular that jumped out to me, Doug, was Bill Hamilton at South Carolina State, a gentleman, Doug, that you had the pleasure to serve on the board with back in the 1990s. What do you remember about Bill and his leadership and what he had given to CoSIDA?
Well, Bill was terrific, a great human being and SID, and he was committed to CoSIDA. He was always at the convention, and he brought a smile to every day to when you saw him in the hallways, and was really effective on the board. I got to also serve with him on a Final Four committee, and he's one of my favorite all-time SIDs. I think the press box at South Carolina State is named for him. So he's a Hall of Fame and Arch Award recipient, just a great leader, a great role model for our organization.
We definitely want to, again, recognize our Black men and women leaders and members of CoSIDA during Black History Month. In addition, the month of March is Women's History Month. And again, there have been some amazing women trailblazers within CoSIDA's ranks, led by the late June Stewart from Vanderbilt, who was CoSIDA's first female president back in 1990-1991, followed by Tammy Beauclair, also from Vanderbilt, in 2003 and 2004. Other CoSIDA female presidents include Shelly Poe, Judy Wilson. In the next 2 years, CoSIDA will be led by women in Sydney Potter from Columbia College and Jessica Poole from Chicago State. Now, Doug, you had the opportunity, again, to serve alongside June and Tammy. What do you remember about those two women leaders?
Well, I remember them well. They both were terrific people, and like Bill, committed to CoSIDA. And it was a time when you didn't see women too much in the leadership roles. So they kind of set the tone for others to follow them, and they were role models, great examples, and they were just so highly respected in what they did and everything. They earned that respect a great deal.
Absolutely. Also, we just want to thank all those women leaders, and a special shout out to WOSIDA, that's Women's Sports Information Directors of America, and all they do to champion women in the sports information field. Doug, it's also, as we just mentioned, it is March, and we're normally focused on March Madness and the different basketball championships going on and the beginning of spring sports. But this year, it is quite mad, as many of our members are juggling not just winter and spring sports, but some are even dealing with fall sports. What have you observed so far during this time right now?
Well, over the past 12 months, it's been a long journey for our profession and some difficulties. It's been a kind of a complex uh, uh, issue of how we deal with this pandemic as members, but I'm proud of what we have done as an organization and our members. They have really pivoted, the word you see used often, and survived. Now I think, we've been without, we were robbed of March Madness last year. And I think, yes, it's a long, long, hard day right now for most of our members, but I think most of them wouldn't trade the opportunity to be back working games as opposed to not doing it. So I think there's a combination of excitement, but they realize they're not going to get a lot of sleep during March.
No, and we definitely are thinking of all our members dealing with this chaotic time. So we ask you to hang in there, and the season's almost over. So looking forward to seeing what happens with the March Madness tournament with Division I men's and women's basketball coming up later this month. Lastly, we wrap up our opening segment with honoring and celebrating our 2021 CoSIDA Special Award winners. It was great seeing all the releases in February announcing our award winners, and there will be more in-depth articles on these award winners being shared on CoSIDA.com throughout the spring. If you missed any of those announcements, head over to CoSIDA.com/special awards. Now, Doug, we want to take a minute to recognize our 6-member CoSIDA Hall of Fame class. Do you mind sharing 3 of those names with our listeners?
Sure, I would enjoy doing that. Rosa Gaddy, Chris Plonsky, and Herb Vincent are three of those people. 3 people I've gotten to know over the years, and so deserving of this honor. Rosa was a pioneer. She was the first female board member of CoSIDA. I think the first female to handle football when she was at Brown, and she was a pioneer in her contributions at ESPN over its life. And Chris Plonsky at Texas is another example of somebody who rose through our profession. Her roots are in sports information, grew in the profession, and it helped provide a road to her to administration at Texas, where she's been for several years and always and continues to be a champion for CoSIDA. And of course, Herb Vincent from LSU and the SEC, still on the board, past president, somebody who's been really committed to the organization. So very proud of those 3 people.
Absolutely. And the other 3 members of the CoSIDA Hall of Fame class include Mark Fleming from Moravian College. He served Moravian for nearly a quarter century and is heavily involved in CoSIDA's academic All-America Hall of Fame committee and a D3 leader. The late Chris Wenzler from John Carroll. Chris was a John Carroll graduate, and he served his alma mater for 25 years and was a leader in the community and heavily involved in CoSIDA's Goodwill and Wellness Committee. Sadly, Chris lost his fight with cancer and passed away last June. And our final member is John King from Missouri S&T. He served Missouri S&T for over 30 years, a Division II leader and a current CoSIDA board member. So congratulations to our Hall of Fame honorees and all of our CoSIDA Special Award winners. We look forward to recognizing everyone this in the future months leading up to our convention, and look forward to those celebrations. After the break, we will be joined by leaders of CoSIDA's Advocacy Committee to discuss the committee's work and how they are supporting our members and profession. We are now pleased to welcome in Shelly Poe, Assistant Athletic Director for Communications at Auburn University and Chair of CoSIDA's Advocacy Committee, and the CoSIDA past president and former board member. And we are also joined by Danny Barnts, Assistant Athletic Director for Communications at Point Loma Nazarene University and Vice Chair of CoSIDA's Advocacy Committee, and also a former CoSIDA board member. Shelly and Danny, welcome to CoSIDA Conversations.
Thank you, Sam.
We're so glad you're here. Shelly, I want to start with you first, talking about the Advocacy Committee. It's a fairly recent committee that CoSIDA has started. Can you give everyone a quick overview of the committee and its mission?
Okay. Our committee has been in existence now we're just finishing up our 2nd year. We were started on a request from the board that we need to find more year-round ways to advocate for the profession and for the members in the profession. And that's really the lens that we look at everything through. We want to be an advocate for our industry as a whole, but we also want to educate our members into ways they can become more comfortable and also more effective in advocating for themselves, advocating for their staff, advocating for, again, the profession as a whole and the industry. So that's the kind of, that covers a lot of topics, but that's how we approach the topics that we discuss. How is this going to help our members feel more empowered or more comfortable in stating their case or getting their work-life balance and just their work situation, getting it to where they can be the most productive and effective. And very fortunate, we have members from all the different divisions. We have also a lot of real world experience among our members. And so we have a lot of practical knowledge we can draw upon. And again, a lot of things we talk about are hot button issues in terms of people feel disrespected or people feel something wasn't done right. And I think our experience especially helps us have a little discernment about what things are able to be tackled, one-on-one, and what things maybe need the organization behind them to take a further stance or further education. So
now, Danny, there seems to be many different facets of the advocacy committee, as Shelly was alluding to. Can you explain maybe the different various levels of advocacy that the committee is focusing on?
I think that the main overall topic is really trying to get SIDs to take a little bit more of a stance. We're so used to advocating for our university, for advocating for the student athletes, that we're just trying to get you to advocate a little bit more for maybe the communications, sports information department, and for yourself. I mean, there are very many layers to this one. First of all, most of us don't like attention on us. We're so much more proud when we can get student athlete award or recognition, something like that. But we're just trying to tell them that you don't have to be afraid to put your name on it a little bit. There's no problem of just making sure you put your name on the article. When you get credit from higher up in a university or something like that, you're not afraid to say, yeah, I did that. I'm proud of that one. When so often we shrug that off and we take it as, yeah, this is just part of my job. There should be no problem doing this one. And I think it's just trying to instill the confidence in somebody like that. You're not betraying your type of work or anything like that, but that you're just there you help the future generations that come behind you on that one. And I think that's the biggest one that we're trying to do. So like I said, it's just a situation where we're just trying to empower them a little bit. So, and try to make them a little less scared of the things. Scared is maybe not the exact right word, but just let them be a little bit more bold. I'll go with the positive angle in my writing on that one. And that's what it really comes down to. And it doesn't mean you have to be putting in more hours on something like that. It's just when you do something well, don't be afraid to take a little credit for it.
And it's the same thing too with the CoSIDA Membership Recognition Week. A lot of our members has taken some time for them to get used to that, to making sure that they advertise that within their athletic department, within their university and community. And we're starting to see more momentum with that. And I'm sure you guys, as you just addressed there, it's an issue that with our members that we're trying to get people to, not be afraid to share that information with their colleagues and university.
And sometimes, sorry, Danny. Sometimes it's a good warm-up act. Maybe you don't want to brag on yourself, but you can sure brag on your coworker or somebody else in your league or somebody, an opponent that did you a favor somewhere or did a really great job when you played there or shared something with you. I mean, so maybe that's where we want to try and encourage people. Okay, try this out and now turn the mirror on yourself.
Pay it forward. Absolutely.
Like really quick, I was going to add to that one as you talked about Membership Recognition Week. I didn't like putting anything out there, but I put something out and we got some of the most comments we got from this year when I put our picture up, me and the graduate assistant, about just from the student athletes, the comments on our Instagram page, the number of likes on our tweet that we put out there. It was interesting. Like I said, I was so afraid to put it out there, but at the same time, once it started a little bit, you definitely felt the love coming back to you. And it was a nice thing to do because I do think that they want to say thank you. They're proud of the work you do, but you just don't get those showcases. So it's I do appreciate CoSIDA for making that happen and being so regular with it over, I think it was the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep, 5 years right now. So going into the 6th, so looking forward to that. Now, Shelly, it's been a year since the COVID-19 pandemic began. It's hard to imagine that. And our profession has gone through a lot of ups and downs. What have you and the committee learned during this time? And what may be the long-term effects on the profession with how we've adapted and how to be flexible with things?
You know, this time last year, our committee was really concentrating on what Danny was just talking about, kind of the 3 levels of advocacy: advocating for the profession, advocating to your supervisors, and advocating for yourself in different work situations. And when the pandemic hit, we found that all our attention and our discussion really pivoted toward things that were very of the now, and started with looking at human resource type concerns over members being furloughed, laid off, staffs being downsized. We started trying to look at ways we could better advocate and position everybody in our membership during the stress of overlapping sports seasons, also overlapping seasons and responsibilities combined with staff shortages. And maybe you had less staff, maybe you had staff, but they were home quarantined with themselves or a family member. You were not able to use students in the same manner you were. There were a lot of challenges in the staff abilities, plus all this extra duties piled on in the same calendar month or the same week or day that were traditionally spread out. So, you know, we've had a lot of talks about things of what constitutes an essential worker and how do we show that we are essential to the well-being and the smooth operation of the athletic department, and beyond that, the university at large, that we have a lot to contribute there. So we have spent a lot of time in the past year trying to see ways that CoSIDA can be stronger in acting for the people maybe that have had some job transition, had some difference of employment situations and that kind of thing. Now we're moving into a phase where we want to say, hey, the end is in sight. The school year will come to an end. Hang in there. You can do it. And we're putting together some educational opportunities with the program committee about ways that you can make it to the finish line, tips that can, you know, make your summer better, ways you can recharge, ways you can maybe regain some of the footing before we start all this over again. And we also are doing a deep dive into what are the skills that we have used during this challenging time that maybe we didn't use before. We had them, but maybe they weren't front and center. And that could be anything from, you know, working remotely. It could be some different efficiencies or economies you found in the workplace that you like, whether that's financial economies or just time-saving economies. I think that we are really trying to inventory a lot of what the members have been doing that's a little bit different than the year before. And then what are the things that will carry over, and what are the things that you can show supervisors and other people that are making decisions about your job or your staff that, you know, that you've been able to do, places you've been able to fill in because you have these skills and abilities and things you have done that have kept things running smoothly. So we want to, probably more into the summer months, make sure people are finding ways to kind of tabulate those abilities and things they brought to the table, and then show productive ways they can use those in advocating going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting about the long-term effects and how things are for our profession. I feel like we're seeing it a little bit now as far as some of the job growth is coming back a little bit step by step. But we, you know, we're definitely feel for our members have lost work or who have gotten furloughed, but hopefully we can see those jobs come back and see how things kind of maybe get repositioned some to maybe streamline how this profession looks. Now, Danny, to kind of go off of that previous question, many of our members in the SID field can be slow to accept change or break habits. How is the advocacy committee helping to encourage members to try change and show more flexibility and adaptability? And kind of like what Shelly was just alluding to with how things kind of changed on a dime there during the pandemic.
I think it still has something to do with even my other statement is just being a little bit more bold on something like that, not always being hesitant to jump into the next one because it's going to create you more work, but just kind of listening, putting your ear to the ground and being willing to listen to coaches, listen to student athletes, and kind of find out what they're doing so you can kind of help meet them on their terms. And I understand once you know what that is, you still have to take the step to do it, to implement it, something like that. But I know people before, let's be honest, I was in the field a little earlier, people were hesitant to do Instagram, people were hesitant to do Twitter and stuff like that. And now those are staples of the profession. And I think it's just a situation where change can be scary for all of us. New technology can make it seem like it's overwhelming when you're seeing somebody just break out all this stuff and you're not sure how to do it, how to take that first step in that one. But I think by embracing those changes, by being willing to maybe not jump into the deep end, but at least follow the path that somebody else has taken, watch somebody else go, and then take that advice, take those lessons, those instructions from them, and being able to go into it, just continues to show that your department is willing to adapt and change and try to look at these new ways of communication. I know we have the title of Sports Information Director, even in the CoSIDA name, but we are athletic communicators in that one. And you have to find ways to communicate with one. I mean, used to be newspaper, television, and radio. We don't do those as much anymore. Now we're finding them ways through social media and the internet. You have to be willing to adapt to deliver that information to people, because people aren't as much searching it out. You're looking for ways to do that. And I think, like I said, it's just a ability to be a little bit flexible in what you are, not make it seem like you're rigid. And then by adapting those ones, it just helps you grow as a professional on that one and really helps expand. And like I said, it's not always a matter of shouting from the rooftop, I did this. When they're seeing this stuff pop up, university administration, your athletic director, seeing these new forms of technology, it makes you look innovative. It gives you that you're advocating for yourself without actually putting your words out there, which is what we're going with on that one too.
Well, and a year ago, I don't think many of us knew a lot about Zoom meetings or Microsoft Team meetings. So we've adapted quickly in that regards, and it's great to see that. So thank you, Shelly and Danny, for joining us. Doug and I really like to personally thank you too for all your hard work with the Advocacy Committee, along with your committee members and your board liaison, Kevin Trainer from Arkansas. All your efforts in promoting our members and profession are greatly appreciated. And we look forward to all the efforts and successes this committee is going to have in the future.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us today. And we just represent a great group of people that are on our committee, and we're here for the members to try and help how we can.
And thank you, Sam. Thanks to Doug and the whole CoSIDA board for their leadership as well. Thank you.
And after this break, Doug and I will open up the mailbag and answer your questions. CoSIDA would like to take a moment to thank all of our 2020-2021 corporate partners for their continued support of CoSIDA. We especially thank our Tier 1 partners: Capital One, ESPN, NCAA External Affairs, NCAA Division II, NCAA Division III, Presto Sports, and Sidearm Sports. Thank you so much for your continued support of CoSIDA. Welcome back to CoSIDA Conversations. And Doug, it's been a while since we've opened up the mailbag, so we have a few questions that have piled up and wanted to dive into a couple of those. First, from Ryan Klinkner from St. John's University in Minnesota. In February, NACTA and CoSIDA announced it extended its partnership through 2029. How will this extension benefit CoSIDA and its members?
Well, good question. For me as executive director, Sam, my job is to work with our staff and our board just to make the profession better, just simply stated. And that agreement with NACTA helps us achieve that goal. Over the last 11 years, it's proved very beneficial to our organization and our members. It means so much to us. It puts us, as they say, it puts us at the table. It allows us to bring athletic directors and other leaders in college sports into our convention. It allows our members to participate with other organizations. So it has so many benefits, and we're extended through 2029. And I think it's going to help our profession move forward. Without that agreement, without involvement in NACTA, I think we'd be missing a great opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like CoSIDA as an organization has gotten more recognition for being a part of NACTA than without being a part of NACTA. So looking forward to these coming years and continued growth and collaboration between the two organizations.
Absolutely. I think Bob Vecchione, Pat Manick and their staff, they really value our involvement with them too. So we look forward to future years.
Absolutely. Next question is from Zach Freeman from Lancaster Bible College. Zach writes, what is the latest with the 2020-2021 Academic All-America program? Thanks, Zach, for the question. Well, the Academic All-America program will begin in mid-April, as originally announced, with men's and women's basketball kicking things off. I know the Academic All-America Committee has been meeting recently to determine what type of stats we will be using. We're not sure yet if it's career versus year. So stay tuned to CoSIDA.com for all the latest information. And rest assured, once that has been determined, we will share that with the membership. But a reminder that the Academic All-America program is open to members of CoSIDA. If you need to renew or purchase a membership, please head over to CoSIDA.com/membership to join today. And our last question comes from Stephanie. Dear Doug and Sam, with it being March, what is your favorite March Madness memory? Doug?
Well, in reality, that's an easy one for me. 1988, I was fortunate to be at Kansas and they won the national championship. And I got to go to the White House and shake hands with the president in the Rose Garden. So in looking back, I've had a great opportunity to be a part of a lot of Final Four events as a volunteer with teams, but that one is certainly one that stands out for me.
I can't top that one, Doug. That's a great one. But just 2 years ago, being able to be the chair of the Division III Men's Basketball Committee and to hand out the national championship trophy to Wisconsin Oshkosh and seeing those student athletes and coaches celebrate was a great thrill to see, and to see the time and effort put into a Final Four and championship come off without a hitch was great to see.
And I would say, Sam, that's a great memory for the organization with you being a representative in doing that.
Thank you, Doug. A reminder to send in your questions to Doug and I for future mailbag segments by DMing us through Twitter at Sam Atkinson SID or Vance CoSIDA. Lastly, a reminder that submissions are being accepted for the publications and digital design contests. Some contests have a deadline of March 15th, so that's coming up, while others aren't until April 29th. So head over to CoSIDA.com/publications for more information. So thanks for joining us this month on CoSIDA Conversation. Again, we want to send positive vibes to all of our members hosting games and dealing with multiple seasons at once. Hang in there. You got this. Doug, any other words of wisdom?
Well, I just hope everybody's teams wins all the rest of their games.
Yeah, no extra inning games and no overtime. So, but for Doug Vance, I'm Sam Atkinson, and we will see you next time on CoSIDA Conversations.